So we continue with the reproductive system. Now we are now into the menstrual cycle part of the chapter. So we just understood the different parts of the female reproductive system. So that is about the ovary, then releasing the egg and giving out as a graphene follicle and graphene follicle to the ova. Graphene follicle forming into corpus luteum, which gives you two hormones, estrogen and progesterone, and then into the oviduct and then the uterus part, the cervix, the vagina and the vulva. So these are the different parts of the female which we studied in the last video. Now we see what are the changes what are going to be there which the body of a female is going to be taken care of so as to accept or you can receive the embryo into the uterus. This cycle is called as a menstrual cycle. So it is a cycle which is of 28 days. So we say the reproductive period of human female continues from about the age of 13 years to 45 to 50 years. This period is marked by a characteristic event repeated almost every month, 20 days with minor variation. In the form of menstrual flow, it may be temporarily stopped during only by pregnancy. So the female body is going to be going through a cycle, okay, continuously. It will be a 28-day cycle, sometimes 1 or 2 days more or less, but it will be having a 28-day cycle, and that cycle is going to be such that it sees to it that the body is preparing itself for accepting or receiving the embryo. Okay, so this cycle is called as the menstrual cycle. And it starts at the age of around 13 and it would end at the age of around 45 to 50. So depending upon that, it's going to be, the start is called as a menarche. So when the onset of the menstrual cycle, first menstrual cycle takes place for a female, is called as a menarche. And when the menstrual cycle stops, okay, the complete stop of the menstrual cycle is called as the menopause. So menarche is the start and menopause is the end of the menstrual cycle thing. Once the menopause is reached, of course the female cannot ovulate, and hence she will not be able to be reproductive any longer, so they will not be able to give out the egg. So menarche is the onset of the menstruation in a young female at about age of 13 years. Menarche means a beginning. Menopause is the permanent stoppage of the menstruation at about the age of 45, pause or stop. So that is the difference between the two. So we can see the female reproductive organs. So ovaries, the follicle produces ova, estrogen and progesterone. Oviduct transport ova into the uterus. Uterus protects and nourishes growing embryo. Vagina receives the sperm, and the external organs, vulva, protects the urethra and the vagina. Now the period of menstrual cycle is counted from the day of the onset of the flow to the next onset after 28 days. So once the onset of the flow takes place to the next onset, वो जो complete period जो है, that is called as the menstrual cycle or menstrual phase. So the first phase is called as the menstrual phase. This is of a 4-day cycle, okay, approximately. It's not completely 4 days, but normally it is 4 days. So it lasts for 3 to 5 days, during which blood is discharged. The bleeding is caused due to the shredding of the uterine lining, rupturing the blood vessels. Starting from the onset of the menstrual flow, the ovary begins to form a new egg in the follicle. So it is this way that I told you that this particular progesterone is going to thicken the walls of the uterus so as to accommodate or do the implantation of the embryo. So embryo के implantation के लिए it is necessary that this particular walls of the uterus are being thickened. Okay, so the thickening of this wall has taken place. Now on the start of the menstrual cycle, what happens is that these walls are going to shred. So there will be a shredding of this particular wall. So this shredding of the walls, यानी क्या होगा, ये जितने भी यहाँ पे blood vessels वगैरह यानी जो these muscle, but the tissues are there. The tissues are going to be drained out, so they are going to be removed from. So because what they it is understood is this way, that each and every egg, okay, uske liye preparation is separate. So there is a separate preparation. So once the egg is released, uske liye यहाँ पे preparation ready है. एक बार वो egg यहाँ से चला गया, यानी उसके साथ में the walls are also going to be removed and a new formation is going to take place. So every month, that's why every month, which each and every ovulation, there is a separate generation of the thickening of the walls of the uterus. So that's why the first phase is when the already existing walls of the uterine walls are shredded and they are given out as the blood or bleeding in which is due to the rupturing or the shredding of the uterine walls or the line uterus lining जो है वो निकल रहा है, rupturing of the blood vessel from the uterine lining. So this is the also the onset. So once that takes place, इस पर्टिकुलर ओवरी के अंदर का जो एक एग है उसका मैच्योरेशन प्रोसेस स्टार्ट्स टेकिंग प्लेस. सो द फॉलिकल गेटिंग developing into a graphene follicle takes place on the onset of the first shredding of the walls of the uterine. So that is the start of the menstrual cycle, also starts the new maturation of a new egg. Then comes the follicular phase. The next is the follicular phase. As the follicle grows, the amount of estrogen produced by the ovary increases. So now what happens is, as the graphene follicle starts growing, the estrogen produced by the graphene follicle keeps on increasing. Okay, there will be increase in the estrogen which is produced, and this hormone then acts on the uterus and causes its lining to become thicker and develop more blood vessels. This change is a kind of preparation of the uterus to receive the fertilized egg and assist in the early implantation of the embryo and its subsequent development. So the estrogen which is over here is going to see to it that the walls of the uterine, as soon as this development takes place, the egg starts maturing inside the ovary, there will be the development of the, because the follicular phase, so menstrual phase खत्म हो गया, यानी यहाँ से जितना भी shred होना था वो हो गया. Now it is a fresh area where the development of new layers of the uterine wall starts developing. So there is a development in that way, and it is the preparation for the receipt of the to receive the fertilized egg or early implantation के लिए it is the process which is going to take place during the follicular phase. The third phase is the ovulatory phase. Of course, what is ovulation? That is ovulation from this part. The ovulation हम लोग ने देखा था. So that ovulation is going to take place is the third phase. The third phase, it is about the 13th to the 14th day. So right from the first day when the first shredding took place, उस दिन से 13th or the 14th day को there will be the ovulation taking place from the ovary. So the ovary is going to, the graphene follicle is going to rupture and the egg is going to be released from the ovary, that is ovulation is going to take place. So on about 13th to 14th day the follicle ruptures, ovulation, and the released egg travels down the oviduct. So the released egg is going to travel down the oviduct in this particular 13th or 14th day of the menstrual cycle. The two hormones produced by the pituitary gland, follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone, promote the maturation and release of the ovum. So this maturation and the release of the ovum is going to take place because of the two hormones produced by the pituitary gland, that is the follicle stimulating hormones. It is going to stimulate the follicle to form the graphene follicles. That's why follicle is follicle stimulating hormone. And second, luteinizing hormone. क्यों? एक corpus luteum बनाना था, तो इसीलिए luteinizing hormone is going to act on the follicle. So these are the two which are going to promote the maturation and release of the ovum. The fourth phase is the luteal phase. Luteal phase. Okay. Luteal phase में क्या होता है? So it lasts for 15 to 28 days. In this case, 15 to 28 days, the ova, that is the egg, is going to just remain over here with no changes over here. So it is that in last it lasts from 15 to 28 days, from 15 to 20th, okay, not 15 to 28, it is 15th day to 20th day, okay, that is 13 days totally. Uterus lining thickens further, and after the release of the ovum, the emptied follicle in the ovary turns into a hormone producing tissue called corpus luteum. So that is what is happening in the luteal phase. So corpus luteum is formed, and the walls of this particular lining of the uterus is going to keep on thickening. So that is what is happening in the luteal phase. And in the ovum, if the ovum is fertilized, now if in this particular period, within this particular period, that is from 15th day to 28th day, अगर उस दिनों के बीच में if there is the release of the sperm over here, and if the sperm is able to reach this point, okay, in that case there will be fertilization of the egg cell. So if the ovum is fertilized, the corpus luteum continues to release progesterone. Now see this thing, this is the most important part. If this would have not been fertilized, then progesterone जो है वो release होना बंद हो जाएगा, तो ये thickening कम हो जाएगा, and then there will be shredding taking place. But if this particular corpus, this particular ovum get fertilized, then this progesterone will stop being produced, and then there will not be any shredding of these particular walls of the uterus. In fact, they will keep on thickening so that they can have the proper implantation and pregnancy taking place. So so they release progesterone. So progesterone is going to keep on release. Okay, sorry, I said it is not going to release. Sorry. So because if it is fertilized, then progesterone will start getting released. So the corpus luteum continues to release progesterone, so to keep the uterus in a state suitable for implantation. The moment the progesterone, till the time the progesterone is present in the blood cells, the uterine walls are not going to shred. So that's why that will be also can be a test for pregnancy, that progesterone presence in the blood cells. So however, if on the other hand there is no fertilization, the ovum disintegrates and the corpus luteum stops producing progesterone. So in this case, if by 28th day there is no fertilization of the egg taking place, then the progesterone secretion will be stopped, and accordingly there will be shredding of the walls of the uterine walls. As a result, the thickened lining of the uterus restarts shredding on the 20th day and loses blood, which escapes through the cervix and the vagina. So this is what happens, that so in the complete menstrual cycle, it's a simple thing that for the first 4 days there will be shredding of the walls, that is nothing but the menstrual cycle. So menstrual phase, which the lining are going to be shredded, and then the next one is the follicle stage. In the follicle stage, the follicle which is present inside is going to become a Graafian follicle, and it will be ready for ovulation. So that will be the first almost 12 to 13 days. On the 13th or the 14th day, there will be ovulation taking place, where the ova is going to be released, and it is going to be released and go into the oviduct. And at the same time, the corpus luteum is going to produce the estrogen and progesterone, so that the thickening of the walls of the uterus keeps on being maintained, so that they can take in the fertilized egg. And if the next phase is the luteal phase, where then this particular corpus luteum is getting formed, and it is going to keep on producing estrogen and progesterone from 15th day to 20th day, so that the thickened line over here is preparing itself for the implantation of the fertilized egg. If the fertilized egg is present, if the egg gets fertilized, then the progesterone will keep on being generated, so that the walls of the uterine are maintained and they are not going to get shredded. But if this particular if this fertilization does not take place, then the walls are going to start shredding, because the progesterone secretion will stop. Okay, so this is what happens in the menstrual cycle in case of female. So we gave the course of the fate of the egg is ovary is releasing the egg into the fallopian tube, and then it will be either fertilized or it will not be fertilized. If it is fertilized, then it divides and becomes an early embryo and goes into the uterus, where it is implanted and pregnancy is formed and the baby is being born. Whereas if it is unfertilized, then it degenerates and may get absorbed and into the uterus, and then it degenerates out, and the menstrual cycle में वो discharge में वो निकल जाएगा. So this is the fate of the egg inside the female body. Okay, so that was about the menstrual cycle. Now we see the next part, and that is fertilization. So what is fertilization? So let's see this. So now we don't require this figure, or else let's see if the initial stage I require this thing. Yes, at initial stage I require this thing, so I'll just show that and then we can erase this part. Okay, fertilization, union of egg nucleus and the sperm nucleus. During copulation, mating or coitus, the sperms are released in the vagina near the cervix of the uterus. So as I told you, the penis is going to enter into the vagina over here, and then due to ejaculation, there will be ejaculation of the sperm inside this near the cervix. Okay, near the cervix it will be, yeah, and then these sperm, because they have got the fluid inside, they are going to travel all the way, because there are millions of them. So out of the millions, only a few of them are going to be able to survive, and they are going to travel all the way up to this particular point and go and reach this particular sperm. This is what is going to happen. So this is what they are saying, that during copulation, the sperms are released into the vagina near the cervix. So near the cervix, they are going to, in fact, they will not be inside. They cannot go inside. It will be near the cervix that it will be discharged. A single ejaculation of a human male contain about 400 million sperms. These sperms actively swim with the help of the tail and pass through the cervix into the cavity of the uterus, progressing at the rate of approximately 1.5 mm per minute. Okay, the speed is just 1.5 mm per minute. It's a very tiny object. The sperm is very tiny, so the उसके slashing movement of the tail से वो movement कितना करेगा? तो 1 minute में 1.5 mm. The complete length over here is about 10 to 15 about 12 centimeters. So 120 millimeters. So 120 millimeters 1.5 के रेट से जब भी वो जाएगा, तो approximately उसको 100 minutes तो minimum लगेंगे to reach there. Yeah, this is just an approximate idea about it. So okay, so these sperms actually swim swim with the help of their tail and pass through the cervix into the cavity of the uterus, progressing at the rate of approximately 1.5 millimeter per minute. From the uterus, they climb up to reach the oviduct. If there happens to be an ovum in the oviduct, it gets fertilized by just one single sperm. Okay, so if the ejaculation is here, it travels over here, and if it is within that 15th to 28th day of the menstrual cycle, that where the egg should be present over here. So if the sexual act has taken place within that 15th to 28th day of the cycle, then there will be an egg present over here which has got a chance of getting fertilized over here. So this is how the process of fertilization would take place, or we can say the process by which the male and the female gametes are going to get a chance to meet each other. Okay, they are going to combine with each other, or fertilization could take place. So that was about the requirement for this diagram. Now I'll talk about the sperm and the egg. Okay, so we don't require this diagram any longer. So we see fertilization, the fusion of the male gamete sperm and the female gamete ovum to form a zygote is called as fertilization. So the fusion of the male gamete nucleus, the nucleus of the sperm, and the egg, उन दोनों का fusion जो है, it is called as fertilization. A few days soon after ovulation, 12th or 13th day after the onset of menstruation, are most favorable for conception, which is becoming pregnant. So yeah, the ideal day for getting pregnant it will be the 12th to 13th day after the menstrual cycle, first onset of menstrual period, because that is the time when ovulation has taken place. So that's the ideal time. Out of a million of sperms released in the vagina, very few are able to climb up to the upper part of the oviduct. The rest die on the way and are absorbed. So you can see that there are 200 to 400 million of sperms which are ejected into the vagina, and out of that, very few of them could travel all the way, that big canal of the uterus and look big and reach the oviduct where the egg is present. So that's the thing, that many of them just die off on the way and are absorbed. So that's the main part. Now we'll discuss about the main parts of the sperm as well as the main parts of the egg one by one. So let me see. Yeah, I can continue this in the same video. Okay, so functions of the main parts of the sperm. The acrosome at the head of the sperm secretes an enzyme, hyaluronidase. Okay, so quite difficult to pronounce, but hyaluronidase, okay, which facilitates entry of the sperm into the egg by dissolving the walls of the ovum. So it is this way that the sperm is of this shape. So it will be like this. And then the tail. Over here is the mitochondria. So this will be the mitochondria. And here is the acrosome, and then comes the nucleus. So this is the acrosome, and this is the nucleus. This is the mitochondria. This is the head, I would say, the middle layer, and this is the tail. Okay, so middle piece, head and the tail. The acrosome, nucleus is bigger, means I just put too small. This is the nucleus. Now, this acrosome over here produces an enzyme. Now, what is the purpose of this enzyme? Is egg jo hai. See, we know that there are millions of sperm which are going to reach, which are going to be ejected into the vagina. So, उसमें से it is not necessarily हर टाइम सिर्फ एक ही पहुंचेगा वहाँ पे. There will be possibility that if the egg, now the egg is so big as compared to the sperm, which will be so small. The sperm will be so small. So there is a possibility that could be that maybe 10-15 sperm can reach this particular point at a point. Okay, it would be possible that there will be many of the sperms, millions of sperms are there. So उसमें से बहुत सारे हैं जो यहाँ पे पहुँच जाएंगे. Now the point is that this acrosome over here, वो क्या करेगा यहाँ पे आके, it is going to produce this particular kind of enzyme which is called as hyaluronidase, whatever it is. You need to know the spelling better है. वो यहाँ पे आके, it is going to release this enzyme. Acrosome is going to release this enzyme so that it will dissolve the outer wall of the egg and allow this nucleus to enter inside, with the tail just remaining outside. So the tail remains outside and the nucleus enters into, so this is the nucleus, so the nucleus of this enters over here from this part. So this is such a way that it is like only one way entry, and only one can enter. So at a time, only one of the sperm will be able, even though साथ में पहुंच भी गए तो भी, only one sperm will have the opportunity to produce this particular thing, or अगर to dissolve the walls of the egg and allow the nucleus to enter into this egg. So this particular process over here, so it's this way that the acrosome of the head which secretes the enzyme which facilitates entry of the sperm into the egg by dissolving the walls of the ovum. The nucleus contains genetic material that is 22X or 22 plus Y. So we know that it's a male part, so male organ will be having the 23 chromosomes. So 23 chromosomes क्या हो सकता है? या तो 22 will be somatic and one will be sex cell, either X or it will be Y. So it will be 22 plus X or it will be 22 plus Y, which during fertilization combines with the nucleus of the egg containing 22 plus X, because egg will always, this one will always have 22 plus X and this one will contain 22 plus X or 22 plus Y. So then if this and this gets combined, it will be a male, and if this and this combines, it will be a female. The baby will be a female. During fertilization, combines with the nucleus of the egg containing 22 plus X chromosomes and thus restoring the normal number of 23 pairs of chromosomes. So this is how the 23 pairs are going to be formed. So we know by meiosis that the meiosis is going to produce haploid kind of cells. So haploid cells will be nothing but 23 chromosomes in it, not 46 chromosomes. So 23 from the male and 23 from female combined together to get 46 chromosomes of a human being. The mitochondria contained in the middle piece contains mitochondria, provides energy, ATP, for the activity of the sperm to swim. The tail makes lashing movements for propulsion. So tail का स्पेशल मूवमेंट से वो आगे चल सकेगा. Sperms may remain alive in female genital pairs for a few days, but their fertilizing power is limited to 1 or 2 days only. So maybe the sperm can stay alive for a few days inside the uterus, but the fertilizing power of the that egg of the sperm is going to be there for only about a day or two. During fertilization, several sperms may surround an egg. That's what I have told you. Several sperm may surround an egg, but only one sperm enters in. In doing so, the tail is left behind and only the head part, which contains nucleus, penetrates the egg. This sperm nucleus fuses with the nucleus. This sperm nucleus fuses with the nucleus of the egg. As soon as one sperm egg enters, as soon as the one sperm enters the egg ovum, the entry of other sperm is prevented by chemical barrier. So this egg has got such a kind of a outer body that it will allow only one of the sperm to enter inside, and जैसे ही एक एंटर हो गया तो अपने आप there will be a chemical barrier protecting the other sperms from entering into the egg. So that is how the possibility of two sperm entering into the egg doesn't take place. Okay, that was about fertilization. The next thing is implantation or conception or pregnancy. The fertilized egg zygote soon starts dividing into 2, 4, 8, 16 cells and so on by the time it reaches the uterus. So as soon as these two get fused together, they form a zygote. So the fertilized egg forms a zygote, and that zygote is going to divide. So 1 का 2, 2 का 4, 4 का 8, 8 का 16, 16 का 32. ऐसा करके they keeping dividing, and they slowly and steadily roll down through the oviductal funnel into the uterus. Okay, so this formation of the growing of these cells and the rolling it down into the uterus, both of them takes place simultaneously. By the time it reaches the uterus, it has already formed a small hollow ball of numerous cells called blastocysts. The blastocyst. So blastocyst, that is a numerous number of cells present in it, like a ball formation ho jayega, which will be by the time it reaches the uterus. This is a kind of embryo which forms a pit in the walls of the that is called as the endometrium. So the walls of the uterus are called as endometrium. Okay, so this blastocyte is going to form a pit, a small of a hole in the walls of the endometrium or the endometrium of the uterus and get implanted or get firmly fixed into the uterine walls. This kind of embryo, which forms a pit in the wall of the uterus and gets fixed in it about a week or that is 5 to 7 days time after ovulation. This process is called implantation, and it produces the state of pregnancy. So when such implantation is done, this process of firmly fixing itself into the uterine wall or the endometrium is called as implantation, and the state once the implantation takes place, then the state of the female is called as pregnancy. Implantation, the fixing of the blastocyte to the walls of the uterus or endometrium, is termed as implantation. The uterus continues to develop to take care of the developing embryo. By the end of 5 weeks of the pregnancy, the embryo is quite advanced the heart and the circulatory system has been formed, and after 2 months limbs have also been formed. So you can say that the uterus एक बार उसने accept कर लिया, the uterine wall will keep on increasing, and there will be development, and there will be of the embryo inside the uterus, and it is going to start developing in this way that within around 5 weeks the heart and the circulatory system will be formed, and within 2 months the limbs and all will also be seen. So embryo, a growing egg after fertilization until the main part of the body and the internal organs have started to take shape, is an embryo. So when the egg, when the particular say a growing egg is still in the form of a form where it is not formed into any kind of a structure, is called an embryonic stage, and then it is a fetus. When embryo starts having a look of a baby, that after 7 weeks of gestation and onwards is called as a fetus, and pregnancy is the state of carrying the unborn young ones inside the body. So that is called as pregnancy. So this was about the implantation and the pregnancy. And this implantation pregnancy के साथ में the baby, or they can say the zygote, is going to be there inside a sac-like structure which is called as the amnion. So we'll take the amnion part in the next video, right?